Picture this. You just pulled up to a remote woodland cabin for a quiet weekend getaway. The air inside is still, the light is kind of dim, and there's a thick layer of dust covering the floorboards. It's totally quiet, peaceful even. But actually, this isn't a peaceful scene. It's a potential crime scene. In this explainer, we are diving deep into one of the absolute stealthiest biological threats on the planet. It's basically a true crime story, but set in the microscopic world.
So imagine opening the door to that cabin, grabbing a broom, and just sweeping up that old dust. I mean, it seems like a perfectly harmless chore, right? But what if I told you that simple, everyday act could be the exact trigger that sets a deadly countdown in motion? You don't feel a bite, you don't see an attacker, but you've just walked right into the trap of a microscopic killer. Now, the true culprit here isn't the dust itself, obviously. It's a highly lethal, totally invisible pathogen that's just hiding right inside it, patiently waiting. It literally uses our own ordinary movements against us.
Chapter 1. The Invisible Killer. Okay, to understand how to survive this thing, we first really need to examine our perpetrator. Take a close look at the Hantavirus. It's a zoonotic pathogen, which just means it originates in animals, and it has this brilliantly sinister evolutionary trick. It naturally infects rodents, but it doesn't make them sick at all. They live perfectly healthy lives while carrying it around. But when this virus crosses the species barrier and enters a human, oh, it wreaks absolute havoc. Moving on to Chapter 2, Profiling the Culprits. You see, this virus doesn't work alone. It actually needs accomplices. Let's take a look at our suspect board. Notice how every specific strain has a highly preferred rodent vector. In the United States, our prime suspect is the Cinnumbri virus, and that one is predominantly carried by the deer mouse. Head down to South America, and you're looking at the Andes virus, carried by the long-tailed pygmy rice rat. Over in Europe, it's the Pumala virus, hitching a ride on bank foals. The scary part is, they are everywhere, just hiding in plain sight in our fields, our forests, and yeah, sometimes right inside our homes. But how exactly does it jump from the mouse to you? Well, here is the chilling, step-by-step modus operandi. First, the infected rodent leaves behind droppings, urine, or saliva. Second, this contaminated waste just dries out in the environment. Third, human activity, like, say, sweeping that cabin floor we talked about, disturbs the dust. And finally, the virus becomes aerosolized. It just hangs there in the air, totally invisible, and you inhale it directly into your lungs. Your own broom is literally the weapon that launches the attack. No joke. Chapter 3. A Tale of Two Crimes. So once inside your body, this pathogen executes one of two terrifying signatures, and it completely depends on which side of the world you happen to be standing on. In the Americas, New World hantaviruses cause HPS, that's Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome. This is a rapid, ruthless attack that literally fills your lungs with fluid. But if you're in Europe or Asia, the Old World strains cause HFRS, hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome. This variant targets your kidneys and blood vessels, leading to internal bleeding and kidney failure. It's basically two different weapons from one absolutely devastating family of viruses. But honestly, it's the New World variant that truly terrifies public health officials. If you contract Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome in the Americas, the case fatality rate is a staggering 38%. Let that sink in. And in some severe outbreaks, that number has climbed as high as 50%. This isn't just a bad flu. Getting this is basically a coin toss with your life. When we contrast these stakes visually, the disparity is just stark. In Asia and Europe, HFRS accounts for tens of thousands of cases annually, but the fatality rate ranges from 5 to 15% for severe cases, and it's less than 1% for the milder ones. Now, the New World HPS? Far rarer. We're talking fewer than 1,000 cases reported in the US over decades, but it is just astonishingly lethal when it does hit. Now, usually, humans are what we call dead-end hosts for this. The virus stops with us, we can't infect anyone else. But there is a terrifying plot twist in our true crime story here. We call it the Andes exception. The Andes virus down in South America is the only hantavirus currently known where rare, limited human-to-human transmission has actually been documented. It's usually among intimate partners or family members in close contact, but still, it's the killer that is learning to jump. And that is a scary thought. Chapter 4. The Ticking Clock. So what actually happens when the virus breaches your defenses? Well, a ticking clock begins the exact moment you inhale that dust. First, there's a silent incubation period. For anywhere from 1 to 8 agonizing weeks, the virus quietly multiplies inside your body. You feel absolutely nothing. Then, suddenly, the alarm bells ring. Days 1 through 5 bring this generic flu-like prodrome. But by day 6, the illness violently shifts gears into rapid respiratory failure. To put that into perspective, during the infamous Four Corners outbreak, the average time from the very first symptom to death was just 8 days.
Honestly, the most terrifying part of this early phase is how incredibly deceptive it is. Just look at these prodromal symptoms: fever, muscle aches, a headache, maybe some nausea. I mean, it perfectly mimics the flu or even COVID-19. This makes early diagnosis incredibly difficult for doctors, because by the time the severe disease onset really hits, we're talking pulmonary edema and acute respiratory failure. The window to actually save the patient is closing rapidly.
And right here is the grim reality of the whole situation. There is no cure. There's no FDA-approved antiviral drug. There is zero vaccine. If you get infected, your only lifeline for survival is immediate admission to an intensive care unit. The medical team can really only provide supportive care, things like oxygen intubation and managing your blood pressure, while your own body essentially fights the battle of its life against this virus.
All right, Chapter 5, Securing the Crime Scene.
Listen, you are not defenseless here. We know exactly how this killer operates, which means we know how to stop it. If you take away absolutely anything from this explainer, let it be these defense tactics. First up, always ventilate closed spaces for at least 30 minutes before you go in. Second, and this is the absolute golden rule, never dry sweep or vacuum rodent droppings. Like we said, that is exactly how the weapon is fired. Instead, you want to wet the area thoroughly with a bleach solution, let it sit for a bit, and then carefully wipe it up. And finally, seal off any entry points to your home to just keep the accomplices out in the first place. By understanding the invisible mechanisms of hantavirus, you completely take away its power. But the next time you venture out into the wild, or honestly, even just into your backyard shed, remember the hidden dangers of the natural world. The dust in your cabin may have settled, but as you look around that quiet, enclosed space, are you absolutely sure you're the only one who's been staying there? Keep your eyes open, clean smart, and stay safe out there.